Hello again. Well, it's almost the end of February and spring is fast approaching, and it'd be nice to get this boat in the water and do some sailing at the end of spring and during the summer. So with the idea of trying to push a little bit harder and get some more jobs done, I've taken 3 days off work and I'm going to spend those days trying to progress the build as much as I can. So last time I epoxied the front section on the inside. So as you can see over there, that is all now dry and ready for sanding. So what I want to get on with over the next couple of days, next 2 or 3 days, is the keel. I'd like to get the keel glued on. So that's the keel for the forward section, and this is the keel for the aft section. So these are already cut to shape. They just need effectively gluing on and then screwing into position to hold them vertical while they dry, and then fillets down either side. Also, I'm going to build up the rudder. So that is my first job today. So this is the actual rudder itself, the rudder blade, and I have 2 rudder cheeks that go either side and a filler piece. And I've got 1 rudder cheek here and the filler piece, and I'm just trying to get it into the right position, and then I'll put a couple of screws in to hold it there while it gets glued in. So first of all, I've got to make sure it's in the right spot, the right place. So how I'm doing that is I've put a screw through a hole I've drilled in there, and there's also a hole drilled in the rudder blade. And the idea is that when these 2 come together and they sit correctly, the idea is that the rudder blade can be pulled up like that. That needs to come down, so there'll be a rope to pull that down into position, and that will slot into position like that. So this has been cut to just the right shape to provide as much support as it can for the cheeks, while at the same time giving the rudder blade space to turn. So as that turns, and then it sits there when it's in its upper position. So I think that's in the right spot. So that all looks good. So what I'm going to do now is drill some holes to put this piece in position, and then do the same with this piece. Yeah, like that. That's going to go on there like that. So obviously I have to screw this on first so I can take the clamps off, and then I can screw that one on, and then potentially I can put it all together and make sure it all works. So yeah, so that's my plan for the next half an hour. Hopefully it shouldn't take too long. And then once it's all glued up, it can all be sanded and smoothed off, and then finally epoxied with 3 coats all over. Right. And then once that's built up, this is going to be the tiller. So this needs to be glued on to the top of that. So that also needs to have a slot cut in it, and it needs rounding off. So it's going to need a lot of sanding to make it into a nice tiller shape. I also want to try and, this is the dagger board. So far I've only lightly sanded the front edge. The back edge is still square, so there's a lot of material there needs to be taken away. So that's another job. And also, I wanted to try and sort out these. I've decided to go with these little blocks to hold the rowlocks. So these rowlocks are just plastic, but I didn't want to drill into the gunwales because all screws are going to be a potential leak problem. So I thought, well, if I glue these on and screw these rowlocks to this block, then any leakage will make this wooden block rot. And if it does actually rot, I can just pull it off and put another one on. And that rowlock fits really well in there, so that cutout is nice and good. But this needs to be shaped a little bit, and the back of it needs to be curved to fit the hull, and it also needs a 15-degree slope on it so that it sits vertically, even though the hull is at a 15-degree angle at that point. So I need to plane off 15 degrees and then curve it slightly. Then I want to sand it all down, and then it can be glued to the inside of the aft section. And then once that's all done, these can be screwed in place with plenty of epoxy, of course, to seal up the screw holes. So 3 days, will I get all that done? I hope so. So once all that is done, I can start thinking about sanding the hull down and getting some primer and some paint on it. Then it's only going to be a question of getting the hardware off the old glazer and installing it on this boat. Starting to see a light at the end of the tunnel now, so let's get cracking. Okay, so what I'm doing here is I'm just screwing the rudder cheeks either side of the filler piece so that I can dry fit the rudder blade inside and make sure it all functions properly before I glue it all together. I'm also looking at the tiller and trying to figure out where to cut the slot. Okay, so I just wanted to show you how the rudder assembly will look once it's finally all glued up together. So here we've got the rudder blade, that is between the cheeks, and I've put a screw through the this particular cheek, through the rudder blade and then through into this cheek as well. So that means that the actual blade can pivot, so you can see exactly how that will move when it's in the water. So this part of the assembly will fit onto the stern of the boat, and the tiller will attach onto the top here, which will turn it, and then this will drop down. There will be a rope that you pull to pull that down, and then when you come to the beach and you want to get the rudder up, you let go of the rope and then it will just pivot up by itself. So I think that all looks pretty good. And it just shows that what I'm going to do, I'm going to cut the cheeks here on both sides, leaving the centerpiece to go up into the actual tiller part. So the tiller part will turn the centerpiece. So right, that all looks good. So the next job is to get that disassembled and prepared and cut, ready for getting the filler piece glued on. So here I have the rudder stock disassembled. I'm cutting down the rudder cheeks by an amount equivalent to the depth of the tiller piece, so that when I cut the slot in the tiller, the filler piece can go up into the slot, but the cheeks on either side don't. They sit below the tiller, so that the whole thing gets glued together almost like a dovetail joint in a kind of way. I'm also now cutting a piece of copper pipe and drilling a hole in the bottom of the filler piece, or rather in the top of the filler piece, and the copper pipe goes through there. And that's to prevent the rope which pulls the tiller down from chafing the wood. And now I'm cutting a slot in the tiller to take the rudder stock. And now I'm measuring up the rudder blade. I need to mark a hole, which will take a knot in a piece of line, and that piece of line then will pull that knot, which will jam in the hole and it will pull the blade down, and that will go up through the slot that I need to cut in the filler piece. So here I am drilling the hole in the rudder blade. Some fine tuning to the shape of the rudder blade. And now doing some work on those roll-up blocks. So those need to be shaped to fit the hull. So lots of backwards and forwards, getting the shape just right. Making sure that when those are attached to the hull, the dinghy will still nest properly. And then more and more sanding and shaving. And also finally cutting out the slots for the rowlocks themselves to kind of sit inside. and then drilling the holes, making sure that the rowlocks fit. So that's the end of another video. Remember, if you'd like to receive notifications when new videos are posted, then subscribe by clicking on the link down below. And if you've enjoyed watching the video, just please leave a like. Cheers.